It's that time of year, guys. Time to get a little spooky. But before we begin, let's take a quick little preview at what I plan to read this spooky season. A human being on this world made no more permanent impression than does a hand thrust in water. Remove the hand, and the water rushes in to fill the void as if nothing had ever been there. How could you hide from a murderer who lives under your skin? It is a fact that cannot be denied. The wickedness of others becomes our own wickedness because it kindles something evil in our own hearts. If you make friends with pain, you have a friend for life. The people in charge can always justify doing terrible things in the name of the greater good. A slaughter here, a little torture there. It becomes moral to do things that would be immoral if an ordinary individual did them. But there's something horribly unfair about dying in the middle of a good story before you have a chance to see how it all comes out. There was something in her, something that was pure horror. Everything you were supposed to watch out for. Heights, fire, shards of glass, snakes, everything that his mom tries so hard to keep him safe from. So which monster do you choose? Love is always harder. Love means weathering blows for another's sake and not counting them. Love is loss of self, loss of other, and faith in the death of loss. But they'll take good and bad alike to hell because there won't be any place but hell anymore. Not without love, not without forgiveness. What looked like morning was the beginning of endless night. The sun sinks to rise again. The day is swallowed up in the gloom of night to be born out of it, as fresh as if it had never been quenched. But what we give to the poor is what we take with us when we die. Hey, what's up, bookworms and boys and ghouls and all you creepy little creatures of the night? Mike back to talk some spooky season. Is close to that time of year again, guys. 3 weeks away, you can officially start that countdown. So if you guys don't know, if you're new to the channel, you don't understand, spooky season is just what I call October on this channel. It's where I just zoom in on just horror books. That's what I'm going to read for the entire month. Now, my content on the channel is going to be more than just horror because I tried that the first year I had this channel. It didn't go over well, but I will be focusing on horror with my eyes and kind of, like my weekly updates, things like that. And I give this this little preview a little early in case anyone wants to join me on some of these reads. I talk about what I've got planned to read for the month of October. So exciting times because I do love the horror genre. It just doesn't do, even though it's the most popular video on my channel is my top 10 horror novels of all time, horror content overall not really would seem to be what my audience is here for. So I always just kind of try to pack it all in a month. And you know what? I love it because October is the month where everyone is entitled to one good scare at least, right? So hopefully you can get at least one good scary read. So with this, guys, these are things that I do plan to do. I got a quite an ambitious list here, and that it's just how much I plan to read in October. But there are some things that, I had to make some tough cuts just because of how ambitious that list was. And it doesn't mean that I'm never going to read them. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to read them until next October. It just means maybe I'm just not going to read them right now. But, I want to do kind of talk about the ones first here that are for certain. These are ones that are they are chiseled on the tombstone here. I am going to be reading these this October, starting October 1st. And first up, guys, this is one I had never really heard of until a viewer sent it to me, and then I started hearing about it everywhere. It's about Nick Cutter, and this is The Troop. This is an author. I know that some people really like this book. They didn't really like The Deep very much. That seems to be the feedback that I've gotten. But most people seem to say that this one is really going to be something they think that I dig. Although they do say it is going to be kind of tough for parents to read and parents that have kids and scouts to read. I'm like, what do you know? I got both. So it should be perfect, right? So with me, guys, horror, the best thing about it, because I feel like once you get past a certain age, can a book or a movie really scare you anymore? I think with me at this point in life, horror that makes you uncomfortable. That's what I want to read. And I think that this sounds like that's going to fit the bill. So again, I don't really have very much feedback. I don't know really much about it outside of that, quick little thing that I've been kind of told there. I did look up some lines from the dialogue just before I recorded that little introduction I had at the beginning, just because I wanted some, but I can tell you out of context, I don't think those lines really do mean anything. The next one I have on the list, actually, I already read it. I read it early, but I do want to kind of bring it up here because I want you guys to read it. Now, it's just a novella. It's a 60-page short story, really, by Giles Christian. It's called Hellmouth. Now, the reason I did this is because it's kind of been a rut for a minute with fantasy, and I needed like a break, and I said, what's something I can do that's very low commitment? And so I picked that one and read it in 2 sittings, guys. It's great. I think that these historical fantasy fans, these writers, historical fiction writers rather, I feel like they're really, really great at writing horror as well. And I love this idea of mashing those 2 genres together, historical fiction with a little bit of horror into it. And I think Giles Christian hit a home run there. I mean, I really do wish that this was much, much longer, but very much felt like Dante's Inferno, Purgatory from Divine Comedy, in that kind of regard. So I think it was really, really great read. It's got me interested to read more Giles Christian, which I might be doing in January, February, because there's going to be a read along in the Discord for his Lancelot, Camelot books. But with this one, yeah, guys, pick that up if you can. Quick read, and it's going to leave a lasting impression. You're going to be thinking about it for a few days afterwards. That, to me, always says that's great horror if it's still in your head a few days later. But yeah. Sorry, I read that one early. Next up, a recommendation I get a lot because of how much I love Stephen King and the coming of age and horror. Everybody always says, okay, well, you loved it, you love The Body, I think you'd really like Boy's Life. So I read Boy's Life, and they were right. The other recommendation I get a lot is Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. Now, all I've read by Dan Simmons is The Terror, which was very, very good, and I also read Hyperion, which is one of my favorite science fiction books of all time. So I got to believe I'm going to like the man's writing style, but this probably gets the most comparisons to It, which is my favorite Stephen King book ever. So yeah, that's a whole reason I picked this one up, guys, is because of those recommendations, because you guys were right about Robert McCammon. I think Robert McCammon is going to become one of my favorite authors, and that's just going off the first 2 books that I've read. So anything that coming of age, horror, you're going to be dealing with, kids in summer on their bicycles and stuff, that's obviously going to be something that is easily relatable to me growing up in the 1980s. So I'm very excited to get to this. I haven't heard anything but great feedback on this book. Like, never heard one negative thing about it. So that's encouraging. It really, really is. So obviously excited to visit more Dan Simmons, and anytime you're going to get the old Stephen King comparison, obviously that's going to get my attention quite a bit. Speaking of Robert McCammon, I actually don't have this one on physical. I got it on digital. I'm actually probably going to be starting this one rather soon. I actually had this one listed in September kind of as a lead-in for spooky season, but since it is a horror book, I do want to include it. This is The Wolf's Hour by Robert McCammon. I did originally have They Thirst, which was like a vampires in New York kind of storyline. This one apparently is werewolf. So, hey, that sounds exciting, right? I mean, I really don't know what else to say besides that. That sounds very, very crazy, right? Again, I don't research a lot of these before I read them, guys, because I don't want to be spoiled on them. So I wish that I could be telling you more things about it. All I know is that Robert McCammon has written 2 amazing books in Swan Song and Boy's Life, and this was just the next one that I picked, was Wolf's Hour, because I feel like I kind of overdid it on some vampire things last year. I think I did Dracula, I did Empire of the Vampire, I did Interview with the Vampire. I was like, okay, how about we do some werewolves? That sounds a little more exciting. So, hey, why not? That's why I picked this one. So if you have any feedback on it, sure, let me know. I feel like, obviously those 2 books that I mentioned before, always you're going to get heaps of praise about it. Wolf's Hour seems like it's a little more mixed on his stuff, but I am interested to see how he does real, just like horror. That's what I'm really waiting for, because he can do slice of life, he can do coming of age, he can do post-apocalyptic really, really well. I'm interested to see how the man does horror, and then we'll see if he is going to become one of my favorite horror writers. How about the son of Stephen? Last year, I did Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. This year, again, I don't only have it on digital. I don't have a physical copy of it. The Fireman is the next one I have up for Joe Hill this year. So I've done Nosferatu and I've done Heart-Shaped Box, and I loved both of those books to a point where I'm like, okay, look, Is he as good as Stephen King? No. But did the apple fall far from the tree? Not really. I think that he really is a competent writer, and it's actually kind of made me sad that the man is just really focused on comics now. Even though Lock and Key is one of my favorite comics ever, and I think he's very, very good at it. Again, I think he's a very good horror novelist. So The Fireman is another one of those where it's mixed stuff. Some people really, really do love it. Other people think it's just incredibly too long. It is the chunkiest book on here. I think that and Summer and Night are pretty close on the chunkiest book I have on the list this year. But The Fireman, post-apocalyptic, sounds exciting. And I don't know if you really want to call this like straight horror, but it is listed as a post-apocalyptic horror thriller. So there's a fun little genre for you. So again, don't know a ton about it. I'm really just going into this off trust because he's earned it after Nosferatu and Heart-Shaped Box for me. So any feedback you guys got for that, why not? Another reason I picked Wolf's Hour over They Thirst is because I already had a vampire book planned for this year for spooky season, and that is Let the Right One In by John Lindqvist. This is one that when I did my, top 10 horror books I haven't read yet that I really would really want to, I had that one on here. Lots of good feedback for it. I watched the American version of the film, and I liked it a lot. The one with Chloe Grace Moretz. I liked that one a lot. It was very, very good and put the book on my radar. So I definitely want to do that because everyone says the book blows away the movie, especially the American movie. So, hey, that sounds exciting. I can always got time for another vampire book, even though I did say maybe I overdid it a little bit last year, but you know what? Still always going to love me some vampires as long as they are scary, and this sounds like they are going to be quite scary, kind of more of a psychological horror kind of character study, kind of like how far would you go for love kind of thing. So I'm excited to do that. I talked about medieval fantasy and that being, or medieval horror rather, and that being something that doesn't feel like authors are really diving into very much. I believe it's the same viewer who sent me The Troop, also sent me Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman, which I am a terrible, terrible person because I apparently lost the copy, so I had to buy it again on digital. But I am going to be reading Between Two Fires. It's going to be my first Christopher Buehlman. I know a lot of people read Black Tongue Thief on the Discord, and that got mixed reviews, but I want to start with Between Two Fires because medieval horror, I think that is an untapped resource that is going to get more popular here in the next few years, and it seems like he kind of started it all here. Nothing but really, really great feedback for this book. I really don't know how far it goes into medieval horror or fantasy or what. I really don't know anything about it, except that the viewer that sent it to me said this book kicks ass. And I think to me, that's a great sales point. So the minute that I got it, I said, I'm going to save that for spooky season, and then I misplaced it somewhere. So I don't know where it is. So sorry about that, but thank you again for sending that to me because I am going to read it and probably talk about it on the channel because I'm very, very excited to do it. And lastly, guys, this one is an all-timer. You know how I said like The Godfather? I just read The Godfather for the first time. And I said I felt like that one was kind of on my bucket list as far as books go because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So I wanted to read the book that kind of influenced it. Same thing goes with this, guys. The Exorcist is one of my favorite movies ever made. Easily one of my favorite horror movies, one of the scariest movies ever made. Apparently, this is like one of the scariest books ever written. So I'm excited to finally do William Peter Blatty. This is I don't know. It just had its like 50th anniversary, I think, and I got the 40th anniversary edition. But hey, better late than never, right? But this is one that I did also have on that list of horror books I haven't read yet that I most want to. But someone on the live stream actually reminded me that I wanted to read this because I didn't have it on the list. But that's why I had to cut some things out, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. But yeah, those are the ones, guys. That's let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I've already read them all. So seven books I got planned for spooky season here. So it's going to be quite the action-packed month and hopefully full of frights and chills. I hope you guys will join me for some of those. Now, this is kind of the category where I say, look, 7 books in 31 days. It's a lot for some people. I do still have a job. I do still have kids and stuff, so I don't know if I'll be able to get all of those. But if I do, say I blow through those somehow, and I've got extra time, first thing that I had to cut off the list is what I would pick up next. That's going to be The Mummy by Miss Anne Rice. I've never read any of her books that are not Vampire Chronicles. And I kind of wanted to do this, I actually had planned to do this before she tragically passed away earlier this year. But it's just one that I looked at all these other things and I said, it's just going to have to wait because these other things just got me so excited. But this would be one that if I don't get to it in October, guys, I'll get to it sometime early next year because I do want to visit her works outside of Lestat and Company. Next up, the Imago sequence, Bear Laren. This is one of my patrons, or former patron, used to always recommend so much that he actually sent it to me. I don't know anything about Laird Barrett. I think it was just that thing where I was like, I don't know a lot of modern horror authors that I really, really like. There's been some that have been recommended to me, like The Fisherman. Was that John Langan? And I just really didn't like it very much. So this was one that he recommended to me. So again, this is just a short story collection. The actual short story, the Imago sequence, would be the one that I would read, not this whole book here. But that's really, really short. So if I've got some time, I will go ahead and add that one into. Now, the next category I got in final category is called Better Luck Next Year, because these are ones I had to make the tough decision to say, I'm not going to be reading those this year. First up, The Damnation Game by Clive Barker. I actually do have the hard copy of it over there, but you know what? I already started recording the video, so you're just going to have to trust me on that one. But Damnation Game, when I read Clive Barker, I read Weave World, and I was like, I was really, really hoping for some horror from him. So The Damnation Game was the one that I had actually up next. Looks like it's going to have to wait another year. The Rats by James Herbert. James Herbert's an author I always get told is the British version of Stephen King, and they think that I would like him a lot. And The Rats was the one I was going to start with. Just a numbers game here. It's where that fell out. And the big cut, guys, because I mean, if you've watched that same video I keep referencing, the book I had number 1 on that list was House of Leaves. The reason I cut this, guys, is because I started trying to read Ship of Theseus earlier this year. If you don't know what that is, by Doug Dorris, it's a book kind of in the same regard in that it takes a lot of time. You're going to be studying stuff. You're going to be theorizing. You're going to be flipping back and forth, trying to figure things out. It has like a story within a story kind of thing. It was taking way too much time. And I just said, that's not what I want to do right now. I don't ever feel like anything I'm doing here has like a time limit or anything like that. But I was like, it took me like 7 hours worth of reading, and I was on page 35 of that book. And I said, I'm not using all of October to read this book. So that's why it's getting bumped until later. I know some people will be very disappointed because I know a lot of people were anxious to kind of read this with me. I encourage you still to do it and let me know how you guys feel about it. But this was really just, like I said, not just a numbers game, but a time game. I didn't want to spend my entire month reading this. So I think maybe this might be a not spooky season book, because if I try to cram all these horror books into 1 month each year, I can't be tackling something like this. It's going to really take a lot of time and dedication. So that's why I decided to cut it. But guys, that is my list. I'm going to put links down below to everything here. So if you want to buy any of these books, you can. I would love to have you join me on the Discord for spooky season and hopefully read along with some of this thing. But I want to say the ones I said earlier, they are pretty much, like I said, chiseled in stone. So I don't think I'll be bumping anything. But, you know, if you want to make recommendations to me and stuff, guys, I always welcome that. Like I said, I'm always looking for some new horror authors, because I feel like all I'm reading is Stephen King and Joe Hill. But, you know, I would love to learn about some new horror authors that, you know, get you guys seal of approval. I'd love to know about them. And I can always start planning early for next year's spooky season. But anything you guys plan to read, please drop it in the comments below. Let me know what you guys got planned. If you're going to join me for any of these, any nice new authors you're going to be trying, please, recommendations are always welcome, guys. And, yeah, let the countdown begin.